This will be sent out to everyone. You get an email, as like was mentioned earlier, of, so let's say you're hearing this presentation now, but you wanted to hear another one that was during this time, you will get, it'll be a recorded version of everything that you've seen today. So welcome to the symposium. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to jump in. But if you don't have any questions right now, go ahead and mute yourself. Make sure that it should be at the bottom of your screen. There's a mute button. It's a microphone. And if you're muted, your microphone will be red. Okay. So today we're going to, again, mute your microphone because I do hear a little bit of background noise. But if not, we'll work over it and do the best we can. So be actively present. First is virtual. I will have a couple of live demonstrations, so feel free to ask questions through that. The chat feature will be on. I'll be answering the chat box and the and presenting the video, the content, because I'm presenter and the facilitator. So I'll address any comments and questions at the very end, but feel free to ask. Or if you have a question you'd like to say out loud, again, unmute yourself and you can go from there. So for round 2, which starts about 10:30 or so, you'll have, so right now this is round 1, you're in Google Classroom and presentation on that. Well, just in a little bit of round 2, you'll have the opportunity. So as you know, Learn, Grow, Lead is our message, our motto. So there's different types of leadership in the classroom, in the school, and in the profession. So for round 2, you'll have a chance to pick from all these different presentations. And again, if there was one you didn't get to see because you participated in another one, within your email, you will get videos of everything, because again, it's all recorded. So our brave coaches, again, we're having the Twitter contest, and it's being manned by someone. And feel free to, if you hear something inspirational, as we heard earlier, several inspirational things, feel free to tweet it out, and there'll be a contest on that. And our hashtag's brave coaches. Feel free to follow that on Facebook, Instagram, and again, Twitter. And I'm so excited that you're here. I'm going to go ahead and switch to my other slide. Just bear with me a moment. Does anybody have any questions before we start? Can everybody still hear me? Okay, so open this up. Okay. Bear with me a moment. So my name is Alicia Strickland. Can everybody still hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I just want to make sure. Thank you. Okay, so I'll go back to present. So my name is Alicia Strickland, and I'm an adjunct at UNCP and helpful with student teachers here and there. But I'm also an intern for the New Teacher Support Program. And this is our symposium. We're so honored to have all of you here. Again, feel free to ask questions in the chat. I'll address chat questions at the end. But if you have a question, feel free to pop in and just unmute yourself and ask a question. Okay. So again, most of this will be on Google Classroom, and at the bottom of each page, you can see where I've gotten the information for the images, to give credit for the images. So just an overview of what we're going to be doing today. And again, excuse my background noise. We're going to go over an overview of what we're going to be talking about. I'll share some additional information with you, how to link information to your Google Classroom. I've made a Google Classroom just for us that you can use anytime that after today. If you say, oh, I have a lot of questions about this, feel free to go in that Google Classroom, which will be on this, and you'll have direct access to it. And or you say, oh, I have this great idea I want to share with the group. So that will be ongoing, because I will check it a couple times a week. So feel free to, after you get the access to the information, feel free to log on anytime. So you can also pose content related questions for your students. You can use Google. We're going to look at creative ways to use Google Forms, Google Slides, and as we know from COVID, we had Zoom platform, which is a great platform, it was got compromised a bit here and there. So schools no longer, most North Carolina public schools no longer have access to those, but Google Meets is the teleconferencing platform that's used. And, you know, as a beginning teacher or teacher within public schools of North Carolina, you and your students would have access to all the Google platforms within their email.
Ms. Strickland.
Yes, ma'am.
Are we supposed to be seeing something on the screen? Because all I see is a blank black screen.
Oh, no, you don't see anything? We tried again.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Thank you. Let me. Do you see it now?
No, ma'am.
Okay, let me. Does anybody else see it?
No, I don't see it either.
Yeah, black screen on my end as well.
Okay. Sorry about that. Let me close. Let me try to do it again and just share this screen again. Thank you for letting me know that. We'll just try it again. There we go. How about now? Is that better? Thank you. And
Yes.
thank you for letting me know that, hey, this is a wonderful example of what could happen with our students. So thank you so much for being so willing to share that with me. Thank you. So again, sorry about that. So we'll have just creative ways to use Google Classroom within posting links for your students, whether that's YouTube, whether that's a game on something, or WebQuest, you know, multiplication.com, content related questions, how to use Google Forms, slides, and Google Meets, again, is the teleconferencing tool, which, you know, it's not knowing right now what's going on with schools exactly, because we know that July 1st, the decision will be made. You know, that could be very well something. It's Google Meets is the platform. And another way to use Google Classroom is to, we have parental involvement. So you will get this video, the slides and everything, and this is the classroom code. It's up here, so you would click the Google Classroom. And I'm just going to go ahead and open it up, and you could, because whenever you have access to the, as a North Carolina public school teacher, you have access to the Google documents. And if you're not, you know, in the system, you can easily make a Gmail account, and it's all the Google applications are within that, what they call the waffle. So I'll go back to the screen for now, but all through the presentation, you'll be able to click that information. And again, if you have questions, that will be made directly to you. So if you have questions at all, again, if it's next week or after school starts, and you say, oh, I really found this really good tool, you can feel free to post in that platform. And all you would do is go to Google Classroom, and you would type in join, and I will show you how to do that. And you would type in that code, and I will show you how to do that. So Google Classroom is pretty much just, it's kind of like, you know, in Canvas or Blackboard, different things like that. It's a learning management software. You know, you access the students and yourself as anyone who's a North Carolina public school teacher or student, they can access that. Just like I showed you, you'd see that waffle, they'd see that waffle. Again, now with the situation being unaware of what could happen in the fall with our students, you know, and even some students in some counties have been allowed to opt in for, I know Cumberland County, my children attend Cumberland County schools, and there's an option now to even attend virtual. So that it just may be something that we see in the future, in the next couple months or so. It can be accessed from anywhere. Again, even if you want a flipped classroom or paperless classroom, even if we are face-to-face, this is a good way. Or let's say a student is absent, or they lost their work, you know, that happens with our students. You can just say, hey, you know, log into your Google Classroom. And you can post content related questions, and I will do an example of what that. And so first you would click on classwork, which again, I will show you a live example of that. We'll just kind of go through each thing. You would click on classwork, you would click create, and so you can decide what kind of assignment you want. Do you want a quiz? Do you want a question? Do you want to open the classroom up as some people call it bell ringer, some people call it morning work. Some teachers call it jump starts. Do you want to do a little mini assessment? Let's say, you talked about World War II yesterday, and you want to know, the key points that you had yesterday. You want to know if they know it, or you can use it as an exit ticket, before you leave. Let's say your students are switching classes. You can say, answer your exit ticket, and you can see, and you can have them read it off the screen. I know when I taught third grade, I did that, and they love reading it off the screen. They just thought that was a big deal on the smart board. So you click question if you want to do a question. You could do multiple choice, or you could do it other ways. So I'll just show you an example of what I mean. So again, feel free to use this anytime. So as far as posting questions, so again, if you wanted to join my Google Classroom, the code and everything will be on these slides, and you would just click join. Excuse me. Okay, go back to that. But you just click join, and you would type that in. So as far as links, we talked about links earlier. You can click links in here. I posted a question for you. So this is what it would look like, and I will show you how to do this. If you have, when your students walk in, and you say, your jump start is on your Google Classroom, log in, and they'd log in and they'd see it's chronological. So whatever you posted for them first, let's say it could be 3 questions. It can be, it's really up to you. When I did third grade, I did 2 math skim questions. Again, excuse the background noise. So it would show up like this. And for you all, I just put, this is just an example. What's your favorite kind of movie? And what would happen was they'd click it, and let's say on the screen, and you could decide to show this on your screen on your end for your students or not. And let's say that this was a question that you wanted actually had a right answer, then it would show you who did what. And you could either screenshot that, or in small groups, or share that during conferences. That really would be up to you. And then that's what it would look like for them. Could use it points, or you could, you can change that. So, and if they had a question, they could comment here, and you can also turn this off. So I'll just show you an example of that. Let's go back to so let's say you want to make a question with your class. So you go here. And if you have more than one, let's say you have period 1, period 2, you could have that all shows up here. Okay. So, and you could add, and you see here, you can add a link, file, YouTube. Those are things you can add. Okay, and again, if you have more than one group, you can click there. So if you wanted to add question, let's go back. So if you had something from one class, you wanted to repost, you could go to reuse, share with your class. If you had something from Google Drive, you could also do the same thing. On our question option, go back here. So create, so go to create, then assignment question. Okay, let's try to go back and try that. For some reason it's, cancel this. Okay. So, for some reason it is not popping up here, but that's okay. For some reason, you would click create. Forgive me for that. For some reason it's not showing up. And you would go to again, you could decide, I'm asking a question. It can be some material that you had. Sorry about the background noise. Or it could be something you used. You just want to do anecdotal data. So if you're posting links, as we showed before, You can, it can be something, and it can be an anchor chart. It can be, let's say you created a chart together as a class and you wanted to know what, you want them to have that readily available, or let's say the first couple weeks of school when you're creating your classroom norms. I never did call them rules, I called them expectations, and I always would let my students help me with that. You could make that virtual where they came up and wrote on the board, or they could share something through the comments. So it takes a lot of the paperwork. Let's say the copier's down. I know that used to happen to me. Then this, again, it's just something you can use. So just like we went to earlier, which you would go to class, you go to add and then link. So I will show you an example. So when you go to here, share with your class, you click link. You could type in, you could copy and paste something, or let's say you want to add a video, you can go directly to YouTube and look for it from there. Instead of having to go search for it, you can write from there. An example of that is, here's a link that I posted for all of you. It's just, and feel free to access this. This is information about communicating with parents with G Suite, which is the Google platform. And here's some grading hacks. I went through YouTube and typed in this, and I just typed in Google Classroom hacks, and it popped right up, and it would show up just like this for your students. So again, you would go right to add, and you would go to YouTube. You type in your topic, and it pops up, and then you just post it. And once you're done, you click post, and again, you can share it for, let's say you only want this for first period, your first block, because that's the block of the time maybe you have breakfast. I know they're talking about with meals in the classroom, they're talking about doing most of the meals in the classroom. So, you know, if you had during that time, you could say log in, you know, if it wasn't a non-academic time, also you could use it then. Okay, use this link to tell me, you know, how your day has been or something like that. It can be used for anything. And again, the students who are absent or who are lost their work or anything can also be used for that. Okay. And again, if you have question responses, it shows up live for the students like we talked about earlier. You can check for understanding. And for multiple choice questions, it shows their answers, displays it. I'll go show you an example of that. You can gather information, or let's say there's any misconceptions about that. So if this were a question, a content related question here, it's just a question I made up for you all. But if it were a content related question, we would have the exact statistics for who knew, you know, the context clue, or could not give any context clue for this, and it would show you this. And you could say, let's say it was a celebration where everyone got it right. You could feel free to share that with your class or not. It would just depend on the age group and what your wants to know. If not, you know, you have that information for you, and you'd say, oh, I can move on with this content because my class understands, you know. And again, it would, on their end, it would look like this. Or if they were even at home, again, if we're virtual, you could have it up here. How was your weekend? Or tell me one takeaway from yesterday, put it in the comment section. You can even post, you know, just silly stuff, or you can post content related, and on their end, it looks like this. And you can add points, and whenever you do that, on their end, and here's create, now we can create our question. So if you want to create a question, you go to classwork, and you can go to question, and it you know, it's up to you. Let's say I'm just going to make up a silly question. And you'd put your question there, and you could have examples if you want to. But if you have short answer, I think it's best to do multiple choice. I'm going to tell you why. Because whenever you have so you click create. Okay, and then you're going to click ask. And then it's going to show up on their end like this. It's going to show up they have a question. They have assignments there. So when we click on stream, stream is where they're going to see your work. So here's the good thing about, and of course, if it's for an actual classroom question, I would have, unless it's maybe kindergarten, I would probably have more than 2 responses. And I usually didn't put the correct answer first. So it would show up like this for them. The good thing about the multiple choice here is going to show up their responses here, and you're going to be able to see, oh, Julie got it. Oh, Kayron he got it. But Bobby didn't get it. So it would show you that. And then the best thing about multiple choice is you can see, and they have questions in, but if you go to short answer, let's say the answer was 4 centimeters and they just put 4, it's going to count it wrong. So just be careful when you're, just keep that in mind. Maybe in the direct instructions don't forget to include the measure unit or something like that keeps them engaging on what to do. So that's question responses. Again, let's say if you noticed from previous work, there was a lot of misconceptions, you could use that to clear up any misconceptions. Okay, Google Forms also can be used. It's completely digital and linked into your Google Classroom. It shows up in your the classwork tab, which I'll show you an example of that. It shows up in the classwork tab, and forms are pre-programmed in real time. Just like you filled out the information to log on and join our symposium today. That was through the Google form. So it can be used as a questionnaire. All about me. When school starts back, or different things like that. You can post the questions are directly put into the platform, and it can be used. Let's say you have, let's say we are face to face, and you give all the students a paper copy of it. But you want and they answer the questions. Let's say it's math. Let's say that they're doing multiplication, so they're answering all their multiplication questions on the paper copy. What you can do is still make a form for the end to input their answers, and you pre-program it, and then it's basically graded for you, just like any college class you took, and it has quizzes. It's just like that. But again, you have to be careful with the forms to make sure multiple choice, it's already programmed. But again, if it's short answer, and let's say a student put 5 instead of 5 centimeters, that could have bearing on their grade. So again, in the instructions, the one drawback is in the instructions, you might need to just be really specific about that. And then it's a great way to keep track of assignments as well. So, and so go for Google Forms. You would click when you go to classwork, and if you wanted a form for them to fill out, you could easily add create, and you could also do it from your main home page. Recreate it, and again, everything that your link in there is going to go classwork, and they can go back and say, oh, on that test, this is what I made, and so theirs is going to look like this, but theirs will have their information on it. Or let's say they want to say, oh, did I submit assignment 3? Or let's say I need to know the people's names in my class that I can contact. They can see the names of their students in their class from here. Okay. Slides is like PowerPoint. So let's say I always like to use slides for the first, depending on the age of your students, the first couple days of school. You can also allow students to get their all about me. Let's say you want to create a slide and about themselves, and again, for younger students, you might want do tutorials and things like that. Or you can even on the Google Classroom for the assignments. We can't assume that kids, especially younger kids, may or may not know how to use it, or students move around, they may not be using Google Classroom in another state. So what you can do is create within your classroom, you can go make a video for them on how to do something as well. So the flipped classroom is kind of like when you front load information on that, so you can use that as well, where you have videos of yourself teaching something and you want them to learn it, or that's just something you keep there for if they have a question, and you have that on there And again, they can also ask you questions straight from the information, and slides is exactly what we're on right now. So they can add any information. And let's say you want to use it as an exit ticket and you want them to put one picture. Let's say it's a vocab and it's a word web. Well, they can easily log into their Google Classroom. So if they have their Google Classroom, and you assign something for them to do, it's going to show up in that, and they'll see that. And in their waffle, if you want them to make it different, different platforms, if you allow them to use whatever platform, let's say, or if you want them to use slides, they would have direct access to that. And within slides, and that's all linked directly to there, and it would show right up, and they click that, and and up here you see at the top where they can insert pictures, and it gets straight from the, the online. They can get pictures that they have in their folders, or let's say that you had them take pictures themselves of things, of examples. They can easily upload it there. And again, if you're just trying to be more eco-friendly and you're going to do a paperless classroom, that also works too. And it's really good for project-based learning as well. And we know project-based learning is where set up. There's nothing wrong with using worksheets here and there within reason, but it really lets them. They can really take ownership of learning. Like was mentioned earlier. We build that relationship with the student, and then the content. Let's let them have their own ownership of it. Let them get involved in their learning. So Google Meets, again, it's kind of like the Zoom and the WebEx of Google. And again, most North Carolina public schools have discontinued using Zoom because of different aspects. So within Google Meets, that's a teleconferencing tool. And again, the Meet would directly show up into their email, because all the Google apps that I just clicked on earlier, they're all related. So if they had a Google Meet, it would show up in their calendar, but also they could click here. There's a few different ways. You could schedule the meeting simply for your waffle, and you click Meet, and it shows up in their email, and also shows up. You can say, I've posted it in your Google Classroom, and that's the meeting, just like whenever we clicked onto the meeting codes to get into the classrooms that you're in today. It's just like that. It's really kid friendly, and it's and you can tell them, you can go over norms with them, and they're able to use it the same way that we would, like we are today. So, and you can send, it shows up as a reminder in their email, and also in a Google Classroom. Don't forget tomorrow. It's always best if you're going to do that to let them know these are our scheduled meeting dates, or don't forget next Friday it's always best to front load them with the information that they're going to need, because students, they're children, even the high schoolers, they're just bigger version of children, and they're going to need to know that information. And a lot of students now are keeping calendars. Our own children, we had to put up a calendar for them whenever schools went to virtual. So it's best to front load at least a day or two. I would suggest at least 2 days where they were able to access that information. And again, it shows them it's safe and secure. The only people permitted to enter are, those students, and it's not where someone can just get on at random. You can meet with your students, and let's say that your student is out sick or homebound or anything, or let's say that a parent can't come in. Well, maybe this will be a way, especially now. Let's say that your open house is, say that your student, let's say that schools do end up going virtual, the first semester or so. Well, then you could have your open house on here with parents, and you can put it in your students. It directly shows up, and just like with Canvas or any other platform, it shows right up in their Google Classroom. So it's a really good way to let parents get involved. You can, it depends on your parents. You can allow them, you can send them the code and let them get just updates. Parents may not want to, and our parents are busy, just like students are. They may or may not want to be in the classroom, or you may not want, you may only want because of just protection of the children. You may just want, you can always tell the parents, hey, you're welcome to view while your child is on, or you're welcome to use your child's credentials with them there to log in. But if you want to protect the children, it's best to give, where you can go through and allow them access. And when they sign up, you can send home a parent letter with or you can just do email invites, and I will show you that, which it keeps them involved. Parents, as any of us with children know, we have questions, and that's one way parents can ask questions. And you can give the join code to them. You can, let's say that they won't have a question about what was graded on something. Did Susie or Jaleel, did they get this right? This one right? Was the grade on that? What they need to work on? It's really easy for them to see that. You can also use it during parents' teacher conferences, whether that be a face-to-face or virtual. You can also have a separate Google account. Let's say if you did want to have a platform just for parents, you could open a Google account for parents, just like we have this one here. So, and they can log in from they can use their email. They don't have to have a Gmail account for that. You could just send them invites, and I will show you how to do that. So it's a really good way to keep parents involved. A part of that relationship with students is, we want our parents also to feel like they have a say, so like they're connected to the information, and that what they have to say is important. So it's one thing to have the relationship with students, which is definitely the first step. We also want parents to know that our classroom is an open classroom, and whether it be virtual or face-to-face, we don't want that barrier to become a hindrance for them. So it's a really good way. Again, they can receive emails that says, here's how Julie's doing. Here's how, for my daughter, it would say, here's the weekly update for Destiny, for my daughter. And my contact information is here, and I'm just going to show you a few more things in Google Classroom, and I'm going to go ahead and check for questions real quick. Okay, let me see. Let me go back to did anybody have any questions? I'm going to check the chat right now real quick. Let's see. So again, feel free to get my information's here. That's again, UNCP, that's my contact information here. And in just a minute, we'll go back to our, join the rest of the group. See if I can access our chat box. Our screen here. But before I do that, again, it would show up like this for them. And if you have, so if you just have there's two separate ways to share information. So if you just have something you want them, if you want to share here, go to add, just to recap of what we talked about. It can be a link. It can be a file where you scan in documents. So if you want to upload a file that you've named something, you can click that. Or if it's YouTube, so that's one way to add information. And again, it would show up just like this. If it's a link, it's going to show up like this, or a YouTube video. If it's a question, it's going to show up like that. But if it's an assignment, again, their classwork shows up here. So if they are scrolling down, by the end of the year, beginning of the middle of the year, there's a lot of links that you'd have on there. So if they want to scroll through and just see their classwork, they could easily do that. So you can create assignments. It's going to ask you what kind of assignment you want. You want a due date. You can add rubrics. Again, let's say if you have period 1, period 2, you could easily disaggregate that for them, and you would click assign. And you could also create, questions, questions, what we did talk about earlier. Materials, let's say if it's just an anchor chart that you want them to use, you could easily have a document that you post either in the other link, or you can put it here because it's material. Again, if you had a link that classroom document that you want them to see, you'd go back to your classroom and you'd share it here with those. And when assignment shows up for them, it shows up right where they can see it. You know, you have work here, it shows up in there. And you can I would also explain to them etiquette and things like that, because, you know, you don't just putting, if it's just like a just silly question or something like that, you know, you could put, you know, what's your favorite cake? They could add that. You know, it may be a good idea, you know, like we talked about earlier, you know, going over norms with them that may or may not have been exposed to Google platforms before. Again, if they have not been in North Carolina public schools, they may have not used it, or maybe their school did not use that much. So it's always best to assume that they may not have any experience with it, but you can always see that through. You can, if we're face to face, you know, you can ask students. I mean, not if they don't need to divulge that information, you could do little like a little suggestion box type thing. So I'm looking at our box real quick. Okay. So I think we're good. So we're on the chat box. We're good. Sorry about the screen earlier. Did we have any questions? Okay, so again, what we're going to do next, our next steps. When you go back to your, again, don't forget about our Twitter contest that we're having. You know, feel free to, if you saw something or if you see something inspirational, you know, we're having a Twitter contest, so post it. You know, it can be a quote, it can be a picture. And if you want to follow our coaches, you know, it's hashtag Grave Coaches. There's Facebook, there's Twitter and Instagram. So feel free to reach out to UNCP New Teacher Support. And again, so for round 2, and all these will be, and I will show you what I mean, all these will be hyperlinked. And so feel free to click on the one, you know, we have, again, our main goal for teachers is, you know, having that leadership piece. So if we have that, then, you know, we can build that relationship. We can work with students who are hungry. We can know how to, you know, those students who are experiencing trauma, we'll know how to work with them. And, you know, because you may not know, you know, so hopefully today through the sessions, you know, even the equity during the pandemic, you know, the social emotional learning, all these are just great. And again, let's say that you saw our presentation, but, you know, and you were like, you know, I was really interested in seeing this one, but I didn't get to. And it just took a day or two from now, you'll get access to all of them. All the slides may not be linked, but they'll be in the videos. So, you know, and a lot of them will have links in them. So feel free to peruse those and use those as professional development and different things like that. I know I'll be doing that tomorrow. I'll be viewing the videos because there's just so much to know and learn. And when you get to your next meeting, you know, because you know, it's going to start about 10:30 or so. So, you know, take care of whatever you need to take care of. But when you log in, again, like we did here, just go ahead and mute yourself. Your speaker will most happily have a facilitator who's going to introduce them, tell you more about them. If you have questions, feel free to ask during the chat, or you can unmute yourself and ask. Participate in any activities, like if there's any questions or anything, and be, you know, this is a safe environment. Feel welcome to feel vulnerable to say, you know, I didn't know that. You know, we're here to learn together. I know I have already learned from our keynote speaker so much, and I was so inspired by what she had to say. And the chat feature will be monitored. In your other sessions, the facilitator and the presenter will not be the same person, and you'll be able to ask questions in there where they're asked in real time. So, and our Bitly's there too, and I will show you what is on the Bitly.
Can't see it.
Are you not seeing it?
No, ma'am, can't see it.
Okay. Let me.
Yes, we can see it now.
Okay. So again, this is our virtual norms for the next, our next round. And again, what we talked about earlier, social emotional learning, effective communication, the pandemic, self-monitoring, all these things, EC, this is really important. So these are just podcasting. These are just, as a leader in the profession, you can even do things as podcasting, for remote learning. What's the effects on our students? As Ms. Judy was saying earlier, our students have experienced trauma already, and our teachers. So that is, something that we'll have to, keep in mind. And so for the next steps of what we're going to be doing, most of you should have gotten this link. It was in an email. So learn, grow, lead. So whenever we get down here, you'll be able to see, you should have access to this. If you want to know any information about our presenters, about our team, it's all on that page. You can see more information about Miss Julie. If we'll say, well, I didn't get to attend the first meeting. Not only will you get access to her information, that there'll be an email with her information on it, because it was very informative, very inspiring, and also about you'll get an email of all the videos that were recorded today. So today, when you go to your it's our agenda. This is where we are now, here. So when you go to your agenda, right now we're here where the Google Classroom is. When you go to your agenda, and we're going to stop at 10:20, so we'll start recording in just a few minutes. First of all, thank you all so much for being here. So again, our main components is we want to learn, grow, and lead in our school, in our classroom. And that may have a different definition than the fall. That may be virtually. We may have to see what that looks like, but we need to, when you click here, you're going to go directly to, it's directly linked, hyperlinked, just like you did to get into this classroom. So all that here, all the information's here, and you're welcome to, after the symposium's over, you want to know more information, of course, the links will be closed, but those will get emailed to you. And you can have more about the descriptions. Let's say you want to know more about, well, before I decide which one I'm going to go to, I want to know, so you can scroll down and say, oh, okay, and it gives you the time. So for example, these are our meetings that were just conducted. But once you get down here, so 10:20, you can see, oh, this is what this session's about. I want to know more about our migrant students, or empowering students, or working with EC students, online environments, or digital framework. All these, if you're not exactly sure, feel free to use that. So that this was directly linked, bit.ly. It was directly linked here. Click on it again. The bit.ly that we showed earlier, that's directly linked, is exactly where, that's exactly where it'll take you. So I'm gonna go ahead and start recording.